Hey, and welcome back for the third time this morning, as this is the third video that I'm doing. I'm trying to do a lot of catch up right now, so I hope you guys are happy. I hope you guys are enjoying my videos. Gonna try and make this one short, but we got about a 3-minute video that we're gonna watch in terms of Han Dung. Yeah, you should just be able to skip through that if you don't actually want to watch the whole thing, if you've already watched it a million times. But I figured we may as well just bring that up and do that. So, anyways, uh, Han Dung essentially, alleged at least that he went and back in February of 2021, told a diplomat from China that, hey, do not release the two Michaels from prison. Now, the two Michaels were thrown in prison for spy espionage and blah, 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 which goes against the laws in China. And long story short, they're put in prison. And by the time that they're released, they're in prison for, I think roughly 1,000, but I think it was more than 1,000 days. But right around the same time that they were thrown in prison, there was a Huawei representative or CEO or whoever it was that was also thrown in prison in Canada. She was arrested at the airport in 2018, and that was because of allegations of wire fraud down in the United States, and she was supposed to be extradited down to the United States. Now, that created a sticky situation for Canadians because we're like, well, there's this order out, we can't just let her go because of this, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, then the Michaels were put in this, so they couldn't do anything, right, from the sounds of it. But I mean, then again, they could have done something, essentially get the Americans to say, hey, drop your extradition so we can get this person out of there. You can find them later on if you want, but we need to get our Canadians back. But we didn't, right? We didn't for over 1,000 days. So back in February of 2021, Han Dung allegedly went and said, do not release them because that will benefit the Conservatives. Now, I don't know exactly what was going on at the time that would benefit the Conservatives. My guess is that they may have been pushing for sanctions on China, and or they were advocating strongly for the release of the two Michaels because, we need to get our Canadians home. And so if they would have released them around that time, well, guess what? That would have been the issue. Now, when they got released was actually 4 days after the federal election, and they were on their way home. They got back to Canada on the 27th of September, but it was announced that they were released on the 24th. Well, what else happened on the 24th of September? Well, it just so happens that that person had the extradition order dropped on them from the United States, and the same day, probably within minutes, the two Michaels were released from prison. So that is, well, it is what it is, right? I mean, this is what happens with things, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So, anyways, did Han Dung have anything to do with that? Well, he had an apology that he did in the House of Commons, and I'm going to show that to you because I think it's important to see the full thing in terms of what he's saying, and you let me know down in the comments what you think. Now, after that, I'm going to talk about another person who had to step down from the Liberal Party, and just kind of get your opinions on that. So let's switch over and watch this video. There we go, and play.
I rise on a point of order. I have informed the Prime Minister and the leadership of the Liberal Party caucus that I will be sitting as an independent at the conclusion of these remarks. Mr. Speaker, I'm in your hands as to what happens next. To all my colleagues in the Parliament, media reports today quoting unverified and anonymous sources have attacked my reputation and called into questions my loyalty to Canada. Let me be clear. What has been reported is false, and I will defend myself against these absolutely untrue claims. But let me assure you, as a parliamentarian and as a person, I have never, and I will never, would never advocate or support the violation of the basic human rights of any Canadian, of anyone, anywhere, period. The accusations are false. My family came to Canada for freedom. I have had the privilege of being elected to this House, and I believe I have served honorably and pledge to continue to serve honorably and fulfill my oath of office. I will continue to serve the residents of Don Valley North as an independent member of this House. I'm taking this extraordinary step because sitting the government caucus is a privilege, and my presence there may be seen by some as a conflict of duty, and the wrong place to be as an independent investigation pursues the facts in this matter. I will be sitting as an independent so that business of government and indeed the business of parliament is not interrupted as I work to clear my name and the truth is presented to parliament and to Canadian people. I am a proud Liberal, and I am proud of the work our government does day in and day out to serve the people of Canada. I also don't want to distract from that important work. Before concluding, I want to assure Mr. Michael Spavart and Mr. Michael Covert and their families that I did nothing to cause them any harm. Like everyone in this House, I worked hard and advocated for their interest as a parliamentarian. The allegations made against me are as false as the ones made against you. To my constituents, I will continue to work on your behalf as your Member of Parliament. To my staff, I thank you. I know the days ahead will be difficult, but I will be there to support you as we continue to serve the people of Dao Valley North. To my family, and in particular, my parents, who brought us here to Canada. To my wife, Sophie, and my kids, I love you. I thank you for all the support and love you gave me. The truth will protect us. Our honor and our family will get through this together. Sorry about that. Thank you, Speaker.
So I think the tears are actually genuine because he is very proud to be a Liberal for some reason. And also he must really love what he was doing and his position and stuff like that, right? And so the tears do look genuine, but at the same time, as a skeptic, I'm just like, is this theater? Because I mean, I've seen some people cry exactly like that, but then again, genuinely and non-genuinely. So, I mean, it's up to you. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But let's take a look at Kevin Vuong. So, Vuong, I think is how you pronounce it. He was sitting as a Liberal MP right up until 2 days before the federal election in 2021. So that would have been September 18th. And that's because I think on September 16th or 12th or something like that, some allegations or some information about sexual assault charges came up, and he was essentially ousted from the Liberal Party because of those charges. Now, his statement was that essentially, I didn't know it was a consensual and passionate relationship, or casual and intimate relationship, and he thought that everything was consensual, but apparently some of it wasn't consensual, and that's the reason why the allegations came up. Now, whether or not he's been charged, I think that the charges actually were dropped, but he also had a mask-making business while he was sitting in Parliament, I do believe. I'd have to double check that, but long story short, some questions came up about that because there's a $1.5 million lawsuit in regards to that. So he's not a Liberal member anymore. He stepped down before the last election. He got elected in, and people afterwards were wanting a by-election, but never happened, right? Now the question is, would he have been voted back in afterwards? I mean, a lot of people said they voted for Liberal before they knew about all that, regardless of anything. Anyways, long story short, Kevin Vuong did step down from the Liberal Party. So that's 2 within 2 years. Now, the third one that hasn't stepped down yet is Mary Ng. And if you don't remember who she is, she was on a committee meeting or on a panel or something for given out a contract, and she didn't recuse herself from the decision making, and her friend ended up getting the contract. Therefore, it was an ethics violation, and she has not stepped down yet, from my understanding. So, long story short, there's a lot of interesting things happening in the Liberal Party right now. But this is something I just wanted to bring to your attention in regards to Han Dong, because I find this to be quite interesting. Now, I did put through an ATIP request to the CSIS to ask them some questions. I did get one part of it back. If you've been on my Twitter, you would have seen that long story short, they broke it into 2 requests rather than 1. This is the first one I got back, and essentially it says, we neither confirm nor deny that the records you requested exist. However, we are advising you, as per paragraph 10b of the Act, that such records, if they existed, could reasonably be expected to be exempted under one or more of the sections, because it may have to do with protecting the public and also protecting an ongoing investigation, right? So naturally, I wouldn't get that information. It really sucks because I think that information should just be public, and I was hopeful. I was hopeful, but I wasn't crushed when I got this back. I was just disappointed in the freaking government because they won't give us any answers. Anyways, sorry this video was long. I was trying to keep it short, but you have yourself a wonderful day, and we'll catch you later.